Political reacts. Okay, everybody, welcome back to the program. Let me first say this before I get started with this video. I want to say Renee Good deserves justice. Keith Porter from Los Angeles, who was also taken out of here by an off-duty ICE agent, deserves justice too. You're not hearing a lot about his story as much as you are the Renee Good story. Now, let's talk about this situation between Trump and this man right here, Jerome Powell. He's the chairman of the Fed, the Federal Reserve Bank. And just so you know, if you didn't notice, the Federal Reserve Bank is not technically a part of the federal government. You see, it is a private bank. And the so-called founders never wanted a private bank. And I'm going to get to that later on in this video. But however, Donald Trump has been beefing. He's been gangbanging back and forth with Jerome Powell. He does not like Jerome Powell because it's not only because Jerome Powell won't manipulate the interest rates for Trump, because Trump wants him to cook the books, because Trump is not being transparent, or his administration. These idiots you see right here that are a part of his administration, they're not being honest with us about what is truly going on in this Trump administration at Pennsylvania, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. They've been lying to us. And as a result of his gangbanging with Jerome Powell, chairman of the Feds, he can't get his way. I'm here to tell you that this is all nothing but personal, because Jerome Powell, remember Jerome Powell was on a video with Donald Trump and he made Donald Trump look ridiculous when Donald Trump sat up there and act like he had the numbers for the budget for buildings that they were building or refurbishing. And then he went on to brag about that garbage ballroom that he wants to build. I just want to remind y'all of this. This is where Jerome Powell picked up the paperwork from Trump and said, no, Trump, he went like this with his glasses, looked at it and said, Trump, you're wrong, sir. You have added to the budget for a building that was already built 5 years ago. He made Trump look like a fool on national television. And because Trump has an ego, he's narcissistic personality. Whenever you go after him and you make him look bad, his ego can't take it. And that's why he's going after Jerome Powell, in my humble opinion here, because this is not only about Jerome Powell not playing ball to manipulate the books with the interest rates. And if you start messing around with the interest rates the way he wants him to lower the interest rates, that can cause more economic chaos for us in this country. Listening to Donald Trump, who's unqualified. This is a man, you have to remember, and Donald Trump, who bankrupted a casino. This man has tons of bankruptcies because he has never been a great businessman. He simply got his money when his father gave him his allowance money of he was born into money. This man never built anything from scratch. He's just a marketer. He puts his name on everything like he's doing with the Kennedy Center. And so this back and forth between him and Jerome Powell is very ego-driven, very egocentric, because Donald Trump is just that type of individual. Let me go ahead and show you the original video that I think has kicked this whole thing off with Trump having a problem with Jerome Powell in the first place. Here we go.
So we're taking a look, and it looks like it's about 3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Right there is where this whole thing began, and his desire to get rid of Jerome Powell as the chairman of the Feds. He's been saying it in videos, making hints that he wants to fire his ass, that he wants to bring him to court. I'm going to show you some videos where he's talking like this. This is where it all started, when Jerome Powell had the audacity to question Donald Trump's math, where he's getting his information. And you notice when Donald Trump talks, he never tells you where he gets his information. He never cites his sources. He just says, this is what they say. They say this, they say that. Who the hell says anything? He's like he's making it up out of thin air. Once again, let's get back to this.
The 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Yeah, it just came out.
Our notes had it about 3.1 as well.
3.1.
3.2.
This came from us.
Yes. I don't know who does that.
Are you including the Martin renovation? You just added our entire capital. Yeah, you just added in a third building. Is what that is. That's a
Right there. That's the ego break right there. His ego couldn't take being wrong when Jerome Powell said, you just added in another building to the budget that you're quoting, saying that it just came in today, and Jerome Powell had to clown him and make him look like a fool when he corrected him and said, that's for a building from 5 years. That shows you how out of touch, how unaware, how unexperienced Trump is, and how he is not really a good businessman. He didn't even have these numbers correct. Here we go.
third building.
Well, no, but it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished March 5 years ago. So
It's part of the overall work. So,
it's not new.
so
You see, Trump tried to keep face on camera because he got clowned. This is the origins of why Trump is now talking smack about Jerome Powell, because it's personal. He did the same thing with Barack Obama when they had a roast dinner in New York, and Obama made him look bad in front of a big, large audience in New York. And ever since then, he tried to claim that Obama was not what? He was not a citizen. That's what propelled Trump to be where he is today through the birther movement, ladies and gentlemen. And there he is again going after, he wants to go after Jerome Powell, chairman of the Fed, because he made him look bad on this date in time. I just want y'all to let that marinate. And ever since that time took place, Trump's been going after Jerome Powell. Listen to this one right here.
Secretary Scott Bessent, who's been fantastic. Where's Scott? We're thinking about him for the Fed, but he wants no part of it. He likes being Secretary of the Treasury. I think we'll leave him. So let's cross your name off, right? Officially, right? Remember, you said that. I love the Fed job. To me, it's the easiest job in the world. You play golf for 28, 29 days, then you go and make a little speech, tell everybody, in the case of the current guy, the wrong information because he has.
Check this out. Doesn't Trump play golf like damn near every day himself? He's one of the laziest presidents that we've ever had in this country. But look how he is favoring this individual, and he throws Jerome Powell under the bus because Jerome Powell wasn't going to play his game, and Jerome Powell is not going to play around with the interest rates to cook the books for Donald Trump, because the fact of the matter is Donald Trump and his administration have not been transparent about the stats for unemployment and various other stats that show how the country really is doing. He's trying to cook the books every chance he gets. You can't trust Trump. No, you can't.
There's no clue. But if you have good instincts, it's all based on instincts. I see they want to hire 3,000 economists, 3,000 to report to the Fed chairman.
This is all
What are
hogwash.
they going to do? Take all this information? 3,000 economists. That's why they're spending $4 billion on renovating a building that should have cost $25 million to do.
You know why he's trying to do this to Jerome Powell? Because it goes back to what I just said. Jerome Powell had to correct them about the building that was built 5 years ago. So Trump didn't like that. He didn't like how he clowned him in public. So then what does Trump do in this conference he's having? I mean, this is the U.S. Saudi Arabia investment. Why is Trump clowning Americans in front of foreigners? That's another thing that really bothers me about this man, that he's always putting down Americans in front of people who are non-Americans. Yet he keeps saying he don't want immigrants over here. It's kind of weird what he's got going on. He's trying to clown Jerome Powell around this issue of a building that he says cost too much money to be built, He's trying to clown this man on this issue right here, Jerome Powell. This is what he's doing. Let's continue. He's crazy. Trump is crazy, y'all.
They should have spent $25 million. They're building a basement into the Potomac River. I could have told them that's very tough to do and it doesn't work and it's very expensive, but they're up to $4 billion headed by this clown. But we have 3,000, think of it. They want to hire 3,000 economists. Mortgage rates are down despite the Fed. Scott, you got to work on this guy. He's got some real mental problems. No, he's something wrong with him. It's just sweet. I'd be honest. I'd love to fire his ass. He should.
There it
be
is.
Fired. Guy's grossly incompetent.
There it is right
and he
there.
should be sued for spending $4 billion to build a little building. I'm building a ballroom that's going to cost a tiny fraction of that, and it's bigger than the whole thing put together.
You have to ask yourself with his ego, his fragile ego, why is he talking about a damn ballroom when people are out here struggling in this in this world, in this society we call America? This man is more concerned with a ballroom than he is your health care, more concerned with a ballroom than Americans being employed and having jobs and clean energy, clean air, clean food. None of this stuff he's talking about is presidential.
You got to work on him, Scott. The only thing Scott's blowing it on is the Fed.
Crazy.
Secretary Scott Bessent, who's been fantastic. Where's Scott? We're thinking about him for the Fed, but he wants no part of it.
Now, I went back to that part because that's the guy that he really wants in the Fed over Jerome Powell, because that's the guy that he can do what? He can manipulate to cook the books so that we don't see the truth. This is a man, Donald Trump, I'm going to say again, who bankrupted a casino. Nothing that is coming out of this White House should you trust or even believe in. Trump has been amping this up even on his true social junk media. Let's go back over here and let you see some clips that he put out. This is what Trump put out not too long ago, putting the pressure on this whole situation with Jerome Powell. Here we go, right here. Let me take myself off there. There we go. There we go. The Fed would be much better off. This is what he said. The Fed would be much better off cutting rates as U.S. tariffs start to transition easy. Their way into the economy. Do the right thing. April 2nd, Liberation Day in America. So he, because of his stupid tariffs, Trump's stupid tariffs, he's expecting Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Fed, to do his becking call as it relates to the tariffs, cut the rates down. Trump is destroying this country in a hell hand basket, y'all. Here's some more of his nonsense right here. This is him putting out the smoke signal that he wants this man out. This would be a perfect time for Fed Chairman Jerome Powell to cut the interest rates. He's always late, but he could now change his image. And quickly, energy prices are down. Interest rates are down. Inflation is down. Even eggs are down. This is all a lie. 69%. Jobs are up all within 2 months. That's a lie. Unemployment is down, is high. Unemployment, let me correct myself. Unemployment is going high. Eggs, bacon, food, everything is expensive. There was inflation under Biden, but Trump has now exacerbated it. It's getting higher under him. This is all lies by Trump. He goes on to say this: jobs are up all within 2 months. That's a lie. All of this is a lie, what he's saying right here. A big win for America. Cut interest rates. Jerome, stop playing politics. What are you talking about, Trump? All you actually do, man, is play politics. I don't know what he's saying. I don't know what he means. This is crazy. So that's Trump ramping everything up. And he's even got his sycophants on social media, on X, jumping into the fray with this because he's amplifying the shit that he's saying. Let's go here. So Jerome Powell, this is someone who follows Trump. Jerome Powell, expiration date May 2026, can't come fast enough. This is what's dangerous about this, everybody. Trump, the people who follow Trump that are his supporters, these people are crazy. They're willing to go out and hurt people physically. He could be putting this man at harm's way by putting out these messages because his sycophants will follow his words, follow his subliminal messaging, and go out and hurt somebody like even the chairman of the Fed, Jerome Powell. Now, let me read right here. Trump said himself on his Truth Junk media, he says, I really believe that Jerome is too late. Powell is an obstructionist. Let me say this correct. Donald Trump said that the man is a obstructionist. He's engaging in obstructionism. This is crazy. This is your president, Donald Trump. If you voted for this fool, this is foolishness. Now, let me go and show you something else that Trump did that was crazy right here. Let's go back into the video. This is where now he's made a declaration that he wants to take Jerome Powell to a court of law and put him in jail.
We're thinking about bringing a suit against Powell for incompetence because think of it. These aren't outstanding buildings. These are small buildings. He said $4 billion more. It's going to end up costing more than $4 billion. $4 billion. It's the highest price of construction. Again, Democrats, highest price of construction per square foot in the history of the world. Gorgeous monuments are built for a much smaller price. So we're thinking about bringing a gross incompetence, what's called gross incompetence lawsuit. It's gross incompetence against Powell. The guy's just incompetent. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. He's just a very incompetent man. We're thinking about bringing a suit against Powell.
So he's basing it on gross incompetence. That's the lawsuit that they're going to take out against Jerome Powell. A man, this is the funny thing about it, and it's not really funny. It was the Trump administration in this White House, Trump administration, that ultimately hired Jerome Powell in the first place. So this was your hand-picked man. This wasn't a guy that was picked by Joe Biden administration or even Obama administration. This was Trump's hand-picked man. And once again, when you don't play ball with Trump, he'll just turn around and get rid of you. And his whole administration stinks to high heaven. Now, let's let you hear Jerome Powell's reaction to all of this. And it's really a damn shame, everybody. Here we go.
Good evening. On Friday, the Department of Justice served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas, threatening a criminal indictment related to my testimony before the Senate Banking Committee last June. That testimony concerned in part a multi-year project to renovate historic Federal Reserve office buildings. I have deep respect for the rule of law and for accountability in our democracy. No one, certainly not the chair of the Federal Reserve, is above the law. But this unprecedented action should be seen in the broader context of the administration's threats and ongoing pressure. This new threat is not about my testimony last June or about the renovation of the Federal Reserve buildings. It is not about Congress's oversight role. The Fed, through testimony and other public disclosures, made every effort to keep Congress informed about the renovation project. Those are pretexts. The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation. I have served at the Federal Reserve under 4 administrations, Republicans and Democrats alike. In every case, I have carried out my duties without political fear or favor, focused solely on our mandate of price stability and maximum employment. Public service sometimes requires standing firm in the face of threats. I will continue to do the job the Senate confirmed me to do, with integrity and a commitment to serving the American people. Thank you.
Okay, everybody. So that's Jerome Powell, getting some pushback on Trump and some of the nonsense that he's been coming out with. But let me give you all a history lesson. Once again, the Federal Reserve is not part of the federal government. Technically, it's a private centralized bank. And as much as people today, like Donald Trump and the mega right and all these fools out here keep acting like they're patriots, that they know American history, that they know the history, and they're just grand old Americans and what have you, it's all lies. Because truly the truth is this. The so-called founders, the Thomas Jeffersons of the world, they never wanted a centralized banking system in America because they knew that a centralized banking system and a banking system in general would ultimately enslave the people to the land. Well, let me show you this, for example. Let me put this up here. Check this out. Central banking is such a core part of American economic system that it's hard to imagine a world without it. However, central banking in the United States is very recent development, barely over a century old, established in 1913. Okay, 1913, that's quite some time ago. The founders warned against a central banking, with Thomas Jefferson going so far as to say that the thought of prohibiting against the central banking was the only thing missing in the Constitution. What is that telling you? That the so-called founders never wanted a centralized banking system like we have. They never wanted a Federal Reserve in the first place for Donald Trump to be sitting up here crying about like a little baby that he wants to get rid of Jerome Powell, because technically it should never have existed, but it was put in place in 1913. Okay, now let me play you Thomas Jefferson's quote, or let me read you his quote. And I sincerely believe with you that a banking establishment are more dangerous than standing armies, and that the principle of a spending money to be paid by posterity under the name of funding is but swindling the futurists on a large scale. There it is, everybody. So the so-called founders of this country did not want this type of system. Centralized banking system is not what they desired. They knew that it would be a problem. And so therefore, I'm just bringing it out as a little piece of history as Donald Trump is setting up here, throwing a lot of feces around about Jerome Powell. This is personal because Jerome Powell clowned him on that video that I played. He never forgot that. And Jerome Powell won't be controlled by Donald Trump. And like Jerome Powell said, he's worked for all different types of administrations, Republican and Democrat alike. Well, everybody, I appreciate you coming over. Make sure you share this video on all your social media, because I definitely would appreciate that. Thank you for watching. Like and comment on this video if you can. Share it in your social media. Tell people about the channel, as this is a new political style type channel where we react to things that are happening in the news with video clips and what have you. With that said, I want to thank you for being here, and this is Political Reacts.